And I think all of us can think of a time in our life where we desperately needed true community. And maybe some of us are thinking, maybe for some of us, it's right now. It's in the season that we're in. We're longing for true community. Maybe some of us are struggling with loneliness. And if you are, you're not alone. You're not alone at all. I remember my family had just moved. In fact, I was in elementary school. When I was in elementary school, my family said, hey, guess what? We're moving from the state of Kansas to the state of Washington. And so they said, so that means that you're going to leave your friends and your teacher and your class and all that, leave everyone you know, leave your church family, and we're going to go to a new place. And to top it off, it'll be in the middle of the school year. So right there during Christmas break, Merry Christmas. Well, I was 12 years old at the time. Now, a very insecure, nervous 12-year-old, shy. And so I remember walking into that classroom. It's the second half of the year. All the other kids have already been with each other for at least half a year, if not for 6 years, or however many years. And so I remember walking into that classroom, wondering to myself, scared, wondering, will anyone want to be my friend? Will anyone accept me? Will anyone show interest in me? Will anyone want to be friends with me? Will anyone invite me into their group? Will anyone let me be part of their community? See, there are two fundamental needs that every human being has. Number one, to be known and loved, right? To be known and loved for who we are. Number two, to be part of a group, to be part of community. We were created in God's image, right? We were created in God himself is a community of three in one. We learned this. So we were designed to be social human beings in community. Even if you're an introvert, I'm not talking about introverts and extroverts. All that tells you is what gives you energy, being around people or not. But everybody, no matter what you are, needs connection and community, right? So I remember walking into that classroom so nervous, like, what is going to happen? Will anyone want to be my friend? And I quickly discovered that the answer was no. I walked into my desk, and there I am, and and for whatever reason, all the other kids in the class had their friends, and not only did they have their friends, they did not want another friend. There was not room in their lives for me. And so they found ways to go ahead and make that very clear. I remember I would go there would be some kids playing at recess. I'd be just kind of standing there feeling awkward and weird. There'd be kids playing at recess, and I'd go over and say, hey, can I play with you guys? No, you can't play with us. Go over to the next group. Hey, what are you guys doing? Can I play with you guys? No, you can't play with us. I remember whenever the teacher would say, hey, for this next activity, you need to get in partners to work together for this next project. Everyone would quickly get partners and all that, and then I'd be sitting there, and then there'd be some other kid, and so the teacher would be like, hey, Logan, you be partners with Dustin, and Logan would be like, oh, man. And I'm just thinking as a 12-year-old, what is wrong with me that no one wants to be my friend? All the boys in my class had formed a special club together that included all the boys except me. For a lot of kids, their favorite time during school is recess or lunchtime, right? And those were the worst times for me because those were the times that I got to feel the loneliest. I remember lunchtime, I would go into the lunchroom and just sit at a table and eat by myself every day there in the lunchroom. Everyone else is there hanging out with their friends. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you know exactly how that feels. Well, finally, after doing this day after day after day, I decided that's it. I'm going to have friends today. So I remember walking into the cafeteria that day, the day that was going to be the turning point. I remember walking in with my lunch, and instead of sitting at the table that I always sat at alone, I walked right past it courageously over to the table where all the other boys were sitting from my class. And as courageously as I could, I approached the table, and there at the table was an open space, an open chair. And I approached and set down my lunch at the open chair. And as I'm pulling out the chair to sit down, the kid across from me says, "You can't sit there." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because only boys from our club can sit here. You're going to have to sit somewhere else." Every ounce of courage by that point had already been used up. And I broke. And I just ran from the lunchroom, ran down the hall, locked myself in a stall in the bathroom, and cried and cried and cried. What was wrong with me that nobody wanted to be my friend? What was wrong with me that nobody cared about me, that no one wanted to even talk to me, that people would have to be forced to hang out with me? And during that season of my life, I went without having a single friend, 0 friends for 6 months of my life. And I would come home every day, and I had a room there in the downstairs of my house, and without my parents probably even knowing, I would walk into my room after another devastatingly lonely day at school, walk into my room, turn out the light, go into my closet, and sit in my closet and cry. Every day. And in the darkness of such loneliness, my mind started going places. Some of you know what I'm talking about. My mind started going places and asking questions that it shouldn't ask, coming up with fantasies that it shouldn't come up with, saying, "Why does no one want to be my friend? Maybe it wouldn't be so painful if I just ended my life. Maybe if I ended my life, maybe then all the other kids at school who are so mean would finally regret all the times that they've been so mean to me. Maybe if I just wasn't here, everything would be better." Some of you know what I'm talking about. Why did no one want to be with me and be my friend? But there's something that I didn't realize, and there's something that those of you who relate to this, there's something that we don't realize when we're in the darkness, and that's that actually there is someone who is our friend. Though every single other person may reject you, though every single other person may let you down, Jesus was sitting right there next to me in my closet. And as I was crying, and as I was even thinking those thoughts, Jesus was sitting right next to me, trying to speak into my life to say, "Dustin, you're my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased. Dustin, I have beautiful plans for your life. I'm going to use you as a blessing. I'm going to use you to make a difference in a ton of people's life. Just hang on, because I'm walking with you through the valley of the shadow of death." And I know you're in the shadow. I know you're in the valley, but I will carry you through because I have a plan for you on the other side. And it's through your brokenness that you will be able to bring healing to other people who need it. Because they'll know that you know what it feels like. I desperately was longing for community. And I think many of us today, and many people in our circles or towns or cities or wherever we come from today, so many people are longing for community. In fact, the Surgeon General calls loneliness an epidemic in the United States. Loneliness has been called an epidemic. They've noticed that there's so many detrimental health effects that come from loneliness. The health impacts include increased risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. Loneliness is killer. 1 in 4 young adults report to experience daily loneliness. Daily loneliness. 1 in 4. So my question, a question for you to discuss in your groups. I'll give you a minute to discuss. What are some barriers to experiencing true community? What are some barriers today that you face or that other people face? What are some barriers that people face to experience true community? Ready, set, go. In your groups. 1. Just a reminder, you're starting youngest to oldest every time. Thirty more seconds. All right. I want to hear, what were some of the barriers that you guys came up with? What were some of the barriers? Yeah.
Fear of rejection.
Fear of rejection. That's a big one. What else? Thank you. Thank you so much. What else? Other barriers to experiencing true community. Judgment. Yeah. Could be that the community is judgmental or that we're afraid that they will be. Either one. Yeah. What else? Isolation. Yeah. Just staying to ourselves. Yeah. What else? What? Social media, right? Social media makes money off the illusion of community. The more you continue to try, and they use the language of it too, the more you continue to try to reach out for community through social media, the more you ultimately feel even more empty afterward. Because the dopamine only lasts for a little bit. And then we either need more or we realize that we're still alone. Yeah. What else? Other barriers to community. Say again? Masking your true self, right? Being inauthentic, right? Masking your true self. Yeah, because you can't really connect because you're being somebody else. Yeah. What else? Barriers to true community. Finding common ground. Sometimes it's hard to find common ground with people. Yeah. What else?
I was going to say, like, this is sort of gender specific. I feel like girls can make friends, like, their whole life. But, like, dudes, it's like, once you're, like, 22, like I don't know anybody who's, like, over 22 who's like, yeah, I made a new guy friend. Like, that does not happen.
It's hard to make friends. The older you get, it gets harder to make friends because you don't inherit like friends just from a class together or something like that. Yeah, you have to be intentional about it. Yeah, and it's hard. Yeah. There was one other person? Busyness. Thank you. That's true, right? Busyness. There's so many things that we could say contribute to being barriers for experiencing true community. Things like lack of margin, that's busyness, right? I'm so busy because what is community? All right? What is community? Just for a second, what is community? Community is actually comes from a word that means a verb. It comes from a verb. Do you know what the verb is? That the community is a noun. Do you know what the verb root of community is? I heard communicate. That's a good guess. It's actually not the case. What's the other one? What is it? To commune. Commune. What does commune mean? Commune is an exchange of presents. Not Christmas presents, right? An exchange of presents. Or it can often be nonverbal even. It's an exchange of something more. To communicate is to exchange information, right? To commune is to exchange presents. You see the difference? So technology, social media, and all those things, the best they have to offer is communication, but not community. Communication, but not community. Is there anything wrong with communication? No, communication's a good thing, right? Digital is for information, analog or in person is for transformation, right? So there's nothing wrong. Communication tools can be valuable when used the right way with the right level of character and responsibility to use them appropriately, right? So communication can be valuable, but don't confuse communication with communion. Don't confuse to communicate with commune, because that is true community is a commitment to be present with other people. Community is a commitment to be present physically, mentally, emotionally, and hopefully spiritually, to be present with a group of other people on an ongoing basis. Right? That's what true community is. Right? And so we think about what are some things that are barriers, lack of margin. We said busyness or self-centeredness. That's another one, because community is messy. Community requires loving people who are hard to love. Right? And so oftentimes we search for the perfect community that can meet my needs, and then we soon find out that this community doesn't, so I'm out of here, and this community doesn't, so I'm out of here. And so then we take some sort of moral high ground by not engaging in any community and only hurting ourselves and the communities that we could bless. Right? Self-centeredness, consumerism, same idea. I want what I can get from this community. Lack of commitment. Oh, I don't want to tie myself down, so I'm going to go ahead and stay lonely. Technology. Brene Brown tells a story about some women in a village in Africa, and just their life rhythm was that the women would spend a significant amount of time each day washing clothes down by the river. Then it was hard work, but they would walk down to the river together, they would wash clothes, they'd talk, they would do whatever. When they finished the washing, they'd take them home, they'd dry them out, and then day in, day out. That was the cycle. Well, in this village, they became aware of the technological advancement of the washing machine. And so pretty soon, all the women in the village got washing machines. No longer did they have to spend hours every day going and washing their clothes down by the river. They had more free time. They had an easier life. And suddenly, an outbreak of depression happened in that village, and no one could figure out why. Why do you think it happened? Why do you think everyone got depressed after getting washing machines? Because they lost community. And so now they lost their communing with one another. And how often do we do that to ourselves? How often in the name of convenience, we sacrifice community? In the name of consuming, we sacrifice community. When really community is what our heart really longs for. And we keep trying to fill that void with other things. So how can we destroy loneliness? Because the goal is not just to destroy loneliness for ourselves, but also to destroy loneliness for other people too, right? So here's a question for you to discuss in your groups. Got 1 minute. What are some ways that Jesus, when he was here on earth, what are some ways that Jesus destroyed loneliness? Go ahead and discuss in your groups, youngest to oldest. Hey, do one of you guys mind going and sitting next to the dude who's sitting by himself in the back there? Do one of you guys mind doing it? All right, awesome. What did you guys come up with? What are some ways that Jesus destroyed community? Wow. Did not mean to say it that way. What are some ways that Jesus destroyed loneliness? Yeah, that's right. There were no ways that Jesus destroyed community unless they were unhealthy ones. All right. Thank you for helping me there. What are some ways Jesus destroyed loneliness when he was here? Traveling, seeking different people out, traveling to different people. Yes. What else? Yeah.
He made himself available.
He made himself available. Yes. What else? Sitting down to a meal together, right? In fact, that was like Jesus' primary mission strategy. Did you realize that? It was eating meals with people. Did you know that? In fact, the Gospel of Luke is the entire Gospel of Luke. Jesus is either on his way to a meal, at a meal, or on his way from a meal. And actually, there's 3 the Son of Man came statements in the New Testament. You know what they are? It's really like Jesus' mission statements, you could say. The Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. You know what the third one is? The Son of Man came eating and drinking. There's a lot to be said about eating with people. Excellent. What else? What are some other ways that Jesus destroyed loneliness when he was here? What? He broke social norms, right? He hung out with the people that you weren't supposed to hang out with. Exactly. With the ones that you weren't supposed to associate with. He brought friendship and connection to them on purpose. People who had issues, who had struggled, who had a past, people who were politically incorrect, people who were seen as bad people. Yeah. He was very present with people. That's right. Very present with people. Excellent. Anyone else? How did Jesus, examples of how Jesus destroyed loneliness? Yeah.
He forgave sinners. He saw their innermost darkness and brought it to light and made them felt seen.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. That's awesome. And we could share so many examples of people that Jesus rescued from loneliness. What about Zacchaeus, the tax collector, right? Zacchaeus was a tax collector. In fact, he made good money by partnering with the bad guys and extorting the ones who are supposed to be the good guys, right? You can imagine that he was one of the least popular people in town because not only was he a cheat, but he was also a traitor. Nobody wanted to be his friend, and so we find him climbing trees. Okay, just as a heads up, people in that day, grown men in that day, did not climb trees, okay? It's kind of a shameful thing to do, but he's got nothing left to lose. And Jesus stops and says, hey, Zacchaeus, I'm coming over. We're going to eat a meal together. In their day, eating a meal together was like, we are going to be friends. We are going to share intimacy. We are going to be community. And everybody is like, what? Jesus, you can't hang out with tax collectors and sinners. That's a no-no. I would never do something like that. But this is a story of Jesus' ministry. Jesus goes, what about the demon-possessed guy who's like, he's like hurting himself. He's been possessed by demons. The demons drove him into isolated places. Oh, interesting. Isn't it interesting how the devil wants to drive you into isolation? Because the more isolated he can get you, the more you might start believing his lies. The louder his voice becomes, because it can't be drowned out by community, right? So there's this demon-possessed guy over in the Gerasenes, and he's screaming and he's hurting himself, and actually he's been hurting other people too, and so everyone's scared to even pass by that area. And so then Jesus shows up. He goes all the way across the lake, evidently just for this one guy, because this is the only interaction that happens. They go, and the guy falls on his feet in front of Jesus, says, what do you want with us, and everything like that. And interesting, this is in Mark chapter 5, but interesting, this is the only time that we find Jesus having a conversation with a demon-possessed guy, all right? Every other time he just says, in the name of Jesus, get out of here. This time he says, what's your name? The guy says, our name is Legion, for we are many. And then Jesus says, and then they beg Jesus to send us into the pigs. And then he sends them into the pigs, and the pigs run off the cliff, and they all die, and all of that. But get this. The devil wants you to believe. He wants to drive you into isolation and get you to believe that you are worth nothing. But he doesn't even believe that. Because he was willing, a legion was like 6,000 troops, 6,000 to 10,000 troops in their day. Roman legion, military term, right? And so the devil has a finite number of fallen angels on his team. And he's willing to use up a legion of demons on one guy. Even the devil knows that you are worth way more than anything you can imagine. And if the devil's willing to use up that many to try to drag people down and keep them isolated, how many more angels is our loving Creator Jesus willing to extend anytime we need it to draw us into healing, to draw us into community, to help us extend it to others, to experience hope and wholeness? This is the gospel. And so we find Jesus is constantly extending community to others when he's there on earth. So I have a question for you now. What are some characteristics of true community? What are some characteristics of true community? Go ahead and share in your groups. 30, 60 seconds. What are some characteristics of true community? Meeting. Good night. Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you for coming in and saying good night. I love you guys. All right, what'd you guys come up with? What are some characteristics of true community? What? Meeting each other where they are. Excellent. What else? Inspired to grow. Excellent. What else? Transparency. Excellent. What else? Say it again. Acceptance. Thank you. What else? Yeah. Selflessness. Challenging you to grow. Excellent. What else? Accountability. Yes. Accountability. What else? Genuine. Fantastic. How about kindness? Yeah. Love. You know, Jesus draws people into community. And that's really what Jesus was always doing, is drawing people into community. In fact, even his 12 disciples, the guys that are going to be the movement makers for the Christian movement that you and I are part of today, he didn't do one-on-one tutoring sessions. He didn't do a class. He drew them into a community to do life together and to serve one another and beyond themselves together. That was Jesus's mission strategy, is bringing people into community who would then be sent out to go create new communities to bring people into. That is the gospel. The gospel is not only a story to be told of Jesus. The gospel is not only a message to be received. The gospel is also a community to be lived out. There is no such thing as the gospel without community. Now, it may start that way, but it should never finish that way, because Jesus draws people together. That's what he does. In fact, every time someone is baptized in the New Testament, we don't find people getting baptized and then sent off on their own to somehow keep following Christ, but outside of some kind of community. We don't. Every time someone is baptized in the New Testament, they either join a church or start a church. Because following Jesus is two directions. We grow in love for God and we grow in love for others at the same time. And I'll tell you a secret. Guess what? Oftentimes it's a lot easier to love a perfect God than a messed up others. Than an imperfect community. You know what I'm saying? And so how easy is it for us to say, well, I love God so much that I actually don't need to love these others? And Jesus is like, actually, you need both. You need both. But what are the characteristics of true community? The New Testament uses this phrase, one another, over 50 times to describe what does true Jesus-centered community look like. I'm going to read through like a bunch of them right now, really fast, all right? Love one another, be devoted to one another, honor one another above yourselves, live in harmony with one another, build up one another, be like-minded towards one another, accept one another, admonish one another, greet one another, care for one another, serve one another, bear one another's burdens, forgive one another, be patient with one another, be kind and compassionate to one another, speak to one another with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, submit to one another, look to the interests of one another, bear with one another, teach one another, comfort one another, encourage one another, exhort one another, stir up one another to love and good work, show hospitality to one another, employ the gifts that God has given us for the benefit of one another, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, pray for one another, confess your faults to one another. How many of you would love to be part of a community that embodied those one another's? Amen. And guess what? That starts with you. That starts with Jesus moving through you. So last discussion question for us tonight. Share about an experience when you extended true community to someone else. Give you a minute or two. Share about an experience when you, and we don't have time for all the details, but share about an experience when you extended true community to someone else. Youngest, oldest. Ready, set, go. 20 more seconds. All right, I know we could be here a lot longer, and hopefully you can have some follow-up conversations afterward. But the blessing of community is that it's not only something to seek for ourselves. If we only seek community for ourselves, we will never find it, truly. Community is a gift that we receive and that we extend to others. It's something that requires our investment. It's more about what we can bring to love and serve those in the community and as a community beyond those who aren't in the community yet. True community is about what I can bring to love and serve those in and beyond the community, rather than how I can have my needs met from them. So have we extended community to others? When I was there in the brokenness of my 6th grade year, 6 months with no friends, having all kinds of thoughts, wondering what was wrong with me, I had some kind of thought cross my mind. And I said to myself, if I ever get to a place where I somehow make it socially, where I somehow arrive or have friends, then I am going to do everything I can to bring other people with me. Because I know how it feels to be the one who's left out. I know how it feels to be the new kid that nobody cares about. I know how it feels to be the one that nobody wants on their team. So I said, if I ever make it to a place, make it socially, I'm going to bring as many people with me as I possibly can. Well, a few years later, my family moved again. We moved down to another city, and I ended up going to another school. It was my junior year of high school, going to an academy. I went from a school that had about 40 in the academy to 240. So it was a larger setting, and I remember the very first day of school, walking up and down all the rows of lockers there in the hall, and everyone is there having fun with all of their friends, and there I am walking alone by myself. And I began to wonder if this was going to just be a repeat of 6th grade, just with a little bit more years under my belt, right? But then there was this guy named Jonathan, and he must have noticed that I was new. He must have noticed that I looked pretty awkward. And Jonathan kind of sought me out. Said, hey, you want to come hang out with us? He'd been there. He had friends. He was known. He was respected. He was liked. Not popular, but he was respected. Said, hey, do you want to come eat lunch with my friends here at the... I said, yeah, that'd be great. Hey, do you want to come hang out with us? We're going to shoot hoops in the gym. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Sure. Hey, do you want to come hang out with us after school? We're going to go over to the Mexican restaurant, eat chips and salsa, see how much they'll give us for free. You know what teenagers do, right? Jonathan sought me out, and he became my best friend. And Jonathan changed my life. It doesn't take a ton of people to change someone's life. It only takes one. It only takes one person to change someone's life. And what if God wants to do that through you for someone else? What if God wants to use you to be the one that changes someone's life? Well, because of Jonathan, I began to start enjoying myself. I began to want to go to school each day and stuff like that, even though really, honestly, nobody else cared who I was. But because I had a friend who cared, that gave me the courage to start befriending everyone else. So I memorized everyone's names. When the teacher would take attendance in class, I memorized everyone else's names. And then in the hallway, I'd start going up to them. Hey, what's up, John? Hey, dude. Hey, Patrick, how you doing, man? Hey, man. Well, after the first few times, they started asking, so what's your name? Who are you? Where are you from? I had to initiate every other friendship at that school, except for there was one who had initiated a friendship with me and gave me the courage to do so. Well, I told you that I started saying to myself, I want to seek out the people who don't have any friends and be their friend. And so I started looking for who are the uncool freshmen that I could befriend and start hanging out with. Who are the English as a second language students who would kind of just keep to themselves that I could befriend? Who were some of the other people that were kind of like the misfits at the school? How could I befriend them? And I started inviting them over to my house to hang out. I started hanging out with them. I started talking with them and getting to know them. And pretty soon, I remember one time I had a freshman over to my house. We were just hanging out, having a good time. And he said to me, he said, Dustin, you're like one of the most popular kids in school. Like everybody knows you. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like I have been an outcast my entire life. I've never had that many friends. I've experienced so much rejection. What are you talking about? It's like, no, seriously. And I started realizing it wasn't because I was cool. It was because I had invested in people. It's because I knew them, because I had approached them. And that was really where I hadn't really connected with a church family. I mean, we had gone to various churches and stuff like that. But I said, you know what? Like, for whatever reason, I hadn't gotten really plugged into one. And so the idea came up, well, why not just start one? Why not just start a church? They're 17 years old in high school. And I had a great mentor who was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll support you. So I started talking to my friends about it. All these same friends that were a lot of the outcasts and a few of the others too, right? Started talking to my friends about it. Hey, I'm going to start a youth-led church. You want to be part of it? They're like, sure, let's do it. What does that mean? I was like, hey, we'll figure it out. And so had a training retreat where we learned how to like lead a Bible study or do all these things. We organized everything. And so one Sabbath a month, we rented a public elementary school in a zip code with no Adventist church, and then 40 to 70 of my friends and their families and stuff like that would come together and gather, and we'd have Sabbath school and worship gathering. We'd eat lunch together. We'd have outreach in the afternoon where we'd go out in the community, and then in the evening we'd have a social. We just do it once a month, and we called it the Youth-Led Church. It was a youth-led church, so we didn't have a children's story. We actually had an adult story where we'd invite all the adults to come to the front and be told a story by the young people. We would do creative stuff like take up the offering with duct tape and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Go out in the community and do outreach. And I got to see so many of my friends grow spiritually through that experience. I got to see my friends preach for the first time. I got to see my non-Christian friends from Asia who came here to learn English starting to engage with God and be involved in a church. I got to see my friends just growing spiritually. And I got to see that like the guy who was like just kind of the nerdiest kid in the entire school, right? He just had no friends because he's just kind of weird. And we were like, hey, we need somebody here to like figure out how to run AV. And that guy was like, I'm on it. I'll figure it out. And he became a superstar in that church because he found out the answers and he knew the answers. He was a rock star. I visited later on, like 15 years later. I was at some like young adult conference, and who was running AV? That guy. I was like, let's go, God, right? When you bring people into community, Jesus will change their lives forever. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you because they probably don't know how either. Do it for them. Get to know their stories. Well, through that experience, it was so powerful to see how all my friends were growing spiritually. I never knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I never knew. I never had an idea or anything like that. I just didn't really know. And through that experience, it was so rewarding and so exciting that I was like, you know what? I think I could do this for the rest of my life. This is so exciting. I think I could do this for the rest of my life. And I started sensing a call from God to go into full-time pastoral ministry. And I signed up to go study theology and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know that's what I was called to until God had used me to create community for somebody else. You will gain greater clarity for your purpose in life when you start bringing other people into community. I'm going to say that one more time. You will gain greater clarity for your purpose in life when you start bringing other people into community with Jesus. So extending community to others. And this is part of the calling. We're going to talk more about this, but I just want to whet your appetite a little bit. This is part of the calling of the church, is to be a community that extends to others, to form new communities, to bring them into community. Let me give you an example here. Let me give you an example. Look at the New Testament church right here, Acts chapter 16, verse 5. And the churches were being strengthened in faith and were increasing in number daily. I have a question for you. What was increasing in number? The members, right? Were the members increasing in number? According to the text, what was increasing in number? Churches. How often were they increasing in number? Daily. We have a rapid multiplication of communities happening here, do we not? Do you think that Jesus wants to bring us back to this point? Do you think that Jesus might want to be multiplying his church at a faster level than we have caught on yet? Let me just give you a quick little scenario. You know, Jesus said, in this gospel, the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come, right? How many want to see the end come? How many want to see the end of suffering? How many want to see the end of abuse? How many want to see the end of loneliness? How many want to see the end of divorce? How many want to see the end of human trafficking? How many want to see the end of racism? How many want to see the end of all these things? The end of, we can work, we can stand for those, we can stand up for justice, we can represent Jesus, but the end of sin and all of that will begin when Jesus comes. And so we can participate with him in extending that gospel of the kingdom. So what would it look like for a finished work? Now, I ran these numbers. Let me give you just a couple quick scenarios just to help you see how to destroy loneliness with people who don't even know Jesus yet. All right? What could that look like? I ran these numbers for my conference in Washington, but yours is fairly similar. Carolina Conference has 172 churches. You guys celebrate roughly about 1,100 baptisms a year. Praise the Lord. That's great. So in my conference, we have 120 churches. We celebrate on a good year 600 baptisms, people coming to Christ. So that's an average of 5 baptisms per church per year. Any math nerds here? You're tracking with me, aren't you? If you're not, just stick with me for like a couple seconds, okay? All right, so there's a scenario, 5 baptisms per church. So here in Carolina, it's about just over 6 baptisms per church per year, okay? So let's do a couple scenarios. What does a finished work look like? Every church baptizes 5 per year. That's the addition scenario. Let's do a multiplication scenario. Every church baptizes 5 per year, plus every church plants a new church every 5 years. Okay? Is that fair? Every 5 years. Now, this is not pie in the sky. This is not impossible. And the church that we planted in Tacoma 3 years ago is now planting 2 churches this year. Okay? So it's not impossible at all. All right. So multiplication scenario, addition scenario. So what would that look like then as far as growth in the conference? Okay, as far as growth, and we're only talking about addition. We're only talking about new people following Jesus. We're not accounting for deaths or anything like that. Okay, so after 5 years, it's of course the same because they haven't multiplied yet. But then after 10 years, we see that the addition scenario, we'd have, oh man, is that cutting it off a little bit? We'd have 6,000 new members in the addition scenario. We'd have 9,000 in the multiplication scenario. So praise the Lord. That's great. Now we hope Jesus comes before this, but if he doesn't, we want to be faithful, right? All right, what about 20 years? Okay, addition scenario, we have about 11,000 new members. In the multiplication scenario, we have like 40,000. Okay, that would be like almost tripling the size of our conference in 20 years. All right, how about 50 years? What would it look like? We have about 30,000 in the addition scenario, and we have over 3 million in the multiplication scenario. In 51 years, we have the next kind of multiplication cycle. Here's what it looks like. In the addition scenario, after 51 years, if we don't plant any churches, if we just try to grow the existing churches, praise the Lord, we want them to grow, then we'll have 30,000 new members, praise the Lord, if everything stays the same. In the multiplication scenario, if we help lead people to Christ and plant new churches, we'll have 122,000 churches and 3.6 million members in 50 years. Many of you in this room will live for the next 50 years if Jesus doesn't come. Which of these scenarios do we want to live with? How badly do we want to extend community to others? And that's where E.G. Dubs says, upon all who believe, God has placed the burden of raising up churches, right? Upon pastors, God has placed the burden of raising up churches, right? Upon some who believe, God has placed evidently all of us are called to extend community to others. I was doing a research stat in a place near here, and I found out that I was like, when I was here, because Washington's super unchurched, so when I was here, I was like, dude, you guys have like church buildings, like probably like 3 per block. This must be like a super Christian place. And then I was looking up online and found out in one of the counties at least, and I thought this is probably one of the more Christian counties, I found out that 50% of people were religiously unaffiliated. So that, you know what that means? That means that all the church buildings that we have here laying around, many of them are more monuments than communities. There are a ton of people here who are not part of true, authentic, Jesus-centered community. And they may not even be reached the same ways either, if they don't even believe in the Bible, if they don't believe in God. But you know what they do want? Community, friends, growth, purpose, impact. And God can use you to draw them in to a life-changing experience. I'm kind of wrapping up here because it's getting late. But so where do we start? We want to start thinking about, okay, how do we multiply churches? But oftentimes it starts with just a small group, starting a small group. We find that that's what Jesus did. That was part of his mission strategy. How can any of you start a small group in your context? Some of you may already have one, but how can you start a small group in your context? We find Jesus doing that very thing. Jesus went on the mountainside to pray. He called to him those he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12, designating them apostles, that they might be with him, that he might send them out to preach and have authority to drive out demons. So here's 5 small group lessons from Mark chapter 3, 13 to 15. You can take a picture of it if you want to dwell on it more later, all right? New groups provide a new environment to grow healthy disciples. You agree with that? Yes or no? I'm glad that like 3 of you agree with that. Where are the rest of you guys at? Yeah? Okay. God has people he wants to disciple through the groups you start. Do you believe that? Committing to shared life and ministry in a Jesus-centered group is transformational. Do you agree with that? Personal invitations are most effective. Right? Jesus didn't put an announcement in the bulletin. Jesus didn't make an announcement up front. Hey, we're starting a group, so anyone who wants to come on over. Nothing wrong with communication, but personal invitations are by far the most effective. Jesus went, he sought out people, and he cast a vision about how being part of that group could be transformational and help them become a better version of themselves. They could not afford to not do it, or else they would be settling for less. Hey, come follow me and I will make you fishermen. I'll make you fishers of men. Come follow me. Be part of this group. We can do the same thing. We can invite people into a life-changing experience through joining a group in community and discovering Jesus and becoming a better version of themselves and living with true impact and purpose, right? We can do the same thing. Personally invite people. Don't be afraid if they say no. Don't be afraid if they don't say anything. Don't be afraid if they ghost you. I've found that I usually, if I want to have 10 people in a small group, I usually need to invite 40. But guess what? We have 10, and it's amazing with those 10. And then the next time we're having a group, I'll circle back to the other 30 as well as who else I've met in the time being, and see who's ready, right? It's about when. It's not about if you matter or not. It's not about personal validation or anything like that. This is about who's ready to take a step forward with Jesus, or who's ready to take a step forward with community. The goal of groups is to develop missional leaders who multiply. Excellent. Just kind of as... So how to start a new group? Here's just practical things before we close here, because I want you to have some practical takeaways, because I know that many of you are coming to this camp meeting saying, yeah, I wish we had a group like in my town, like we don't. Guess what? God is calling you to start one, all right? He's calling you to start one because guess what? There's a ton of other people who don't know Jesus yet, and probably some who do, who need to be part of that group. And so here's a simple way to get started. Take a picture of this, commit it to memory, whatever it is, find one or two co-leaders. Don't lead a group on your own. Find one or two people to partner with you, right? So even if it's just you guys, you can keep growing and keep learning the process. Connect with the leader over small groups. Connect with the leader of small groups in your church for support and synergy. If you have a small group leader or a pastor or a mentor or anything like that, talk to them. Say, hey, I want to start a new group, right? If you don't have one, talk to one of these pastors who are here at camp meeting. Talk to Chris or Ryan or Ross or whoever it is and say, hey, I want to start a group. Can you help kind of coach me in this? And they'll say yes. 3, choose a day, time, place, and type of group. All right, we're going to do it on Thursday nights. We're going to start having a basketball group where we get together and we invite people from the community to play basketball. And at the very beginning of the group, we just say, hey, anyone have any prayer requests? I want to pray for anyone who knows anyone who needs prayer. We're going to pray together. And we're going to do that for 8 weeks. And after 8 weeks of playing basketball, we're going to say, hey, anyone who wants to, we're just going to take this journey to learn more about who God is and about his dreams for our life. If anyone wants to join, we'd love to have you. We're going to have that on Tuesday nights starting as well. If you want to take a journey to discover more about God and his dreams for your life, who he is, and how your life could be better knowing him. So meet for around 8 weeks. That's what we recommend so that people can commit to that. It's hard to commit to something for the rest of your life unless you're getting married or something. Personally invite friends from the community and from the church. I've found that people who I've eaten with are a lot more likely to say yes than people who I haven't. So if you can't get people to say yes to your group, start eating with a bunch of people. I'm serious. It's kind of what Jesus did. Start eating with a bunch of people. Get to listen to their story. And then invite them into your group. Pray daily for group participants and communicate with them at least weekly. Develop relationships with group participants and help them take next steps with Jesus. And toward the end of your group, plan what's next. What would help? Where are we at? Do we want to renew this group for another 8 weeks? Do we want to multiply and start new groups? Do we want to attend some kind of an evangelistic opportunity for people to take a next step with Jesus? Do we want to celebrate growth and then kind of focus on other things? What's the right thing toward the end of your group? Is this hard? Yes or no? It might be out of your comfort zone, but is this complex or difficult? It doesn't have to be. It just takes Spirit-given faith and courage. 5 goals for every group. Grow spiritually, grow relationally, grow missionally, right? Want to grow with God, grow with others, and grow serving those beyond ourselves as well, or inviting those. Help someone take a step closer to committing to Jesus through baptism, right? We want to have people who haven't committed to Jesus yet in the group, because then the whole group can grow through understanding the value of who Jesus is. It doesn't mean that we have to make an appeal for baptism during that group, but we want to help someone grow toward that, even one step. Number 5, develop a new leader. Who are we giving opportunities to become the next group leader? All right? And then finally, a sample group format. You could do it a million different ways, but here's one you can take a picture of if you're thinking seriously about doing this. This is how I've often led a group. Food and connection time, then have introductions around the circle, say your name, something you get excited about, share a highlight and low light of the week. This is a chance to be authentic and vulnerable. For my low lights, is a chance to be journeying with each other deeply and celebrate the joys of each other and their lives. So share around the circle so everyone gets a chance to share. Announcements, share any group logistics, a service activity that you want to do maybe, invite to another church event, whatever it is. Have prayer time together. And when I have people who don't believe in God or anything like that, I just say, hey, like if you don't want to pray, that's totally cool. You can just give God a high five. He likes those too. And then Bible study, lesson discussion. There's lots of great resources. One that we use is called apictureofgod.com. Anyone heard of apictureofgod.com? Wow, this is new stuff. All right, apicturegod.com. Check it out. 16 lessons, really easy to use. I have people read them in advance because people know how to read. You can also listen to them as well. And they have reflection questions at the end of the lesson. Guess what? How easy is that? Hey, read the lesson in advance and then come to the group and we'll talk about it. And then you'll have someone share a 1 to 3 minute summary of the lesson and then read one Bible passage from the lesson or that relates to the topic so that people are opening the Bible and hearing directly from the Bible, and then ask one discussion question about the Bible verse. All right? Why or how do you think this or that? Listen to several people share. Don't just let one person dominate the conversation. Ask additional discussion questions. You can use the reflection questions if you want to. And then at the very end, have people share a personal takeaway or personal application at the end. And then close with prayer. That's not that hard, is it? You could do this. You could partner with a friend and do this and see Jesus change someone's life. It's okay if there's ups and downs. It's okay if it doesn't go perfectly or how you want it to go. Jesus will use you. And in closing, Ioane was stuck in loneliness and isolation. He'd made a lot of poor choices in his life. He'd run with the wrong crowd. He kind of wanted a new start, so when his brother invited him to move up to Washington State, he took him up on the offer. And so Ioane was able to find a job, but he still was struggling with loneliness, isolation. And of course, what also comes along with that, which is addiction. Ioane was completely stuck. Ioane was not a Christian. He didn't believe in God. He didn't read the Bible. He didn't go to church. That was not part of his life. But Ioane did go to the dentist. And Ioane's dentist happened to be a team member of the church that we planted called LifeBridge Church. Ioane's dentist and his wife, Jed and Alex, they were committed to being people who they had already been part of this team to start a new church community to reach unreached people in new ways. And now they were passionate about helping people experience friendship and community in the world around them, using where they live, work, and play to live missionally and to invite people into community. And so there, as Ioane goes to the dentist, now Jed had set things up to help create opportunities for authentic spiritual conversations, like having music and looking for opportunities. And he even hired people who were like bought into the mission to be his front office and dental assistants and everything. Well, his wife was there at the front office. Ioane comes in for a dental visit and she starts talking to him. She starts getting to know his story. And she says, hey, have you found a community that you are part of? You said you recently moved to Washington. Have you found community? And he said, well, no, I haven't. She said, would you like to? I said, well, yeah, I guess. She said, well, we are just launching some new groups, and we have some, and so would you like to check one of them out? I said, sure, why not? Well, it just so happened that the group that worked for his work schedule was one that I was about to start leading. And so it was on Monday nights, and we got together with a group of young adults, and we're going to start studying the book of Genesis, life's biggest questions. And so there shows up Ioane on one of the first nights, and I recognize him, and he's like, Alex had told me, hey, Ioane is going to come tonight. He's going to check it out. So Ioane says, yeah, I'm just going to kind of sit back and observe. I don't know how you guys do all this stuff, so I'm just going to sit back and observe. I was like, that's cool. Whatever, man. Like, whatever you feel comfortable with. But as soon as we sat down and as soon as he heard the other young adults, the other people in the group start sharing authentically about their joys and struggles, start opening up about their life challenges and how they sensed God working his life, Ioane saw something that he knew that he needed, and he opened up too. When we got into the discussion, Ioane started getting to know God for the first time. When we assigned follow-up Bible chapters to read, he said, hey, let me find out. Maybe I can go get a Bible somewhere and start reading this and start getting to know what you guys know about God. Well, Ioane continued to grow. God was making changes in his life. He ended up, as he learned about these beautiful truths about God, it was changing his life. He was being rescued from isolation. He started walking out of addiction. God was transforming his life. He changed his work schedule so he could start keeping the Sabbath, so he could start gathering with our church community, with LifeBridge Church. He continued studying the Bible with Jed and Alex, and ultimately we got to celebrate him giving his heart to Christ in baptism, being baptized into our church community. But it doesn't end there, does it? Baptism is not the end. It's the beginning. We continue to disciple Ioane. We continue to help him grow spiritually. We continue to invest in him as a leader to lead others. And so Ioane then, as he was growing spiritually, he was hungry for the word. He was learning more about God. And so we gave him opportunities to keep growing and then even to serve and to lead Bible study groups. And so now Ioane is a group leader, the very thing that changed his life. He is extending to other people. This guy wasn't even a Christian 3 years ago. But I'll tell you what, he's one of the most gifted group facilitators I've ever seen. He continued to grow spiritually. He got opportunities to serve with our church and our free health clinics that we've offered to the community, serving over 2,000 people with free dental, medical, and vision care in our community. And there at one of those health clinics, Ioane met Andrew, who's also unchurched, coming from a background, not really being plugged in any community, not really knowing God. And Ioane started extending friendship to Andrew. He got his number, he started texting him, started getting together, started to hang out together, started studying the Bible together. Andrew started getting to know the God that had changed Ioane's life. And just a few months ago, we got to celebrate Ioane baptizing Andrew, leading him to Jesus Christ in the Seventh Adventist Church. And now someone who wasn't even a Christian 3 years ago is now extending that to someone else. That's how disciples are made. That's how multiplication takes place. That's how we continue to extend community and watch the Holy Spirit change people's lives. And it was only a couple months ago that Andrew was there serving at one of our free health clinics, the very thing that initiated his spiritual journey. Now he is there serving and looking for who he can invest in and bring into a Jesus-centered community. Jesus wants to do this through you. It doesn't matter if you have something great right now or not. He can use you to start it. Great things have humble beginnings. And perhaps why community is so powerful is that God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, our God is a community. They've always been in a community. And the only time that they were separated from community was when they'd lost their kids. They lost us. And so Jesus says, I'll go find them. I'll go rescue them. I'll bring them back. I'll bring them back into community with us. And so so I will separate myself from you so that we can get them back. And so there on the cross, Jesus is hanging on the cross, and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? For the first time, Jesus could no longer feel the presence of God. He was separated from community for the exclusive purpose of rescuing us and bringing all of us, all of the human race, back into community with God. And there on that third day, he rose. His Spirit was soon poured out so that we, the church, could be the community that the world needs, not just to enjoy it for ourselves, but to extend it to others. And so someone here tonight is saying, you know what? I need to commit to community. I need to commit to being part of one. I need to commit to starting a new one. Whatever it is, I surrender to being part of Jesus' community and extending it to others. Let's sing together.
Please stand with us. Listen to the song.